And the second session of the day will be about the power of saying no. I will definitely keep my eyes peeled and ears open for this one because I could learn a thing or two about saying no. So please let me introduce to you Benaz Irani, our speaker, for the second session of the day. Put your hands together.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Benaz, and today we're going to be talking about a topic that it's quite personal to me. We're not going to be talking about like hard skills or the craft of design, but we're going to be talking about a soft skill that is equally as important, and that is the power of saying no. So knowing when and how to push back. Before we get into it, so let me introduce myself. Hi, I'm Benaz. I'm a product design manager at OpenTable, where I've been there for the past 6 years. So I've designed, and now I manage a part of the talented global design team. If you don't know OpenTable, well, we help diners find perfect reservations, but we're also helping restaurants create efficient operations, and that's the side that I work on the enterprise restaurant side. So it's been really interesting, fun 6 years. But today, I want to put work and titles aside. I want to get real with you all. I think I'd like to introduce myself as a recovering people pleaser. Yeah. I used to be one of those people that did whatever it took to make the other person happy. But I just love helping people. I find so much joy in, helping someone out. But that would often mean that I would overextend myself and, put another person's needs in front of my own. A part of people pleasing that I used to do a lot at work was I would say yes to so many requests. I just didn't want to say no to anything that came my way, which would lead me to feeling exhausted, burnt out, working long hours. But the key word here that I want to really exaggerate is recovering. I'm doing better. It is an ongoing process. I've learned through my journey in design and leadership, it's one of the most important skills that I've learned is to say no, and that's what I'm excited to talk to you about today. So I want to tell you a story, take you back to 4 years ago, where I learned the downfall of my people-pleasing. So I was a senior product designer at OpenTable, and I had moved from Australia, where I'm from, to live and work in San Francisco. So, I was getting to know the city, I was making a lot of friends, and I wanted to be the best designer that I could be. So I was really trying to focus on my craft. I was in San Francisco, I was around so much talent. So you could say my main two priorities, my focus was a fun social life and my actual UX work. But me being me, I truly loved people, not love people, I also love people, but I love helping people, and that meant I was juggling a lot of things. See, I was passionate about design systems, and we didn't have a design systems team at the time, so I would get requests like, hey, can you help me out to update this component for me? And I'd say yes, sure. I also was really passionate about, making relationships with cross-functional partners. So they could be someone from sales or from marketing, and then I'd get requests like, hey, can you update this screen for an upcoming press release? And I'd say yes, of course. And I also really loved my team and building that great morale and culture. So I'd get requests from my manager like, hey, can you update this onboarding deck? Or, hey, can you help plan this social meeting? And I'd say yes, yes, yes. And I didn't really think too much about it, right? And then all of a sudden, I wondered why I couldn't have no focus time and why I'm working long hours to work on my actual work. I specifically remember one afternoon, someone from marketing said, "Hey, can you update these screens for me? I've really got to get this done." I automatically response was, "Yep, sure, I can get to that." Turns out it was a bigger task than I expected. I worked all afternoon helping this person out, and the work that I had to get done, I had to do later at night. So there goes my fun social life that I wanted to have. I knew at that point that I put someone's needs in front of my own. I didn't even ask them how big the task was or how urgent it was. I just said yes because it was easier to say no. So it got to the point where my manager started to notice, right? And that's when things get serious, when your manager starts to notice. She was like, "Hey, Benaz, I see you helping out in a lot of initiatives, okay? But how are you scaling yourself? How are you making sure that you're working on the most priority things and you're saying no to the rest and you're standing up for yourself?" And I was like, damn, I thought I was doing all those things and she could see that I could get promoted. But for her, she thought that I couldn't prioritize my work and push back. But you know, like many of us, I was wired to believe that if I was helpful, I'd get ahead. So that's what I did. I said yes to all of those requests. But when I said yes to all those requests, I was really saying no to myself. I was saying no to my main priorities, was that fun social life and my actual UX work. What I failed to realize was that the power of saying no and pushing back has made me stand out and prove my worth. Now, before we go say no to every request that comes your way, I do want to say that saying yes has welcomed amazing opportunities. It's even gotten to me from Australia in front of you all to speaking today. But my point is saying no is equally as important, and it's also helped me get to where I am today. So, can anybody relate? Please tell me I'm not alone here. Who can believe that they've got a lot going on? Yeah, I can see some heads. Oh my God, there's a lot of hands now, yeah. We do this a lot. People pleasing and saying yes to a lot of things is a common behavior. Now I'm curious, let's do a little quiz and see how much of a people pleasers we all are. Number one, do you have a difficult time saying no? This is a really common trait in people pleasing, yeah. Let's get a little bit higher. Do you tend to agree with people even if you feel differently? Yeah, it could be just easier kind of just to go with the flow, say yes. Do you tend to avoid conflict? That can be a tricky one, especially at work. It is safer to kind of just avoid it altogether. And lastly, do you struggle to find free time because you're always doing things for others? Yeah, that was me. I could not find any focus time. So just reflecting on your experiences, if you said yes, or reflected on any experience, if you said yes to any of these, welcome to the club. You're not alone. There's a lot of us out there. That's why we're here to talk about it. If you didn't say yes to any of these questions, I'm jealous. You don't need to change anything. I want to learn from you guys. However, you're probably likely working with a people pleaser. There's a lot of us out there. But spotting a people pleaser is actually really hard. Because we don't want to create conflict, we hide a lot of our frustrations, our sadness, all of those like fearful emotions behind like a can-do attitude and a smile. Okay, so next time you're asking help for something, consider what else is on that person's plate. Even help them prioritize their work if you need to. Even better, if you see that someone is people-pleasing you, call them out on it. I people please, it's such an automatic response. Sometimes I just need to be held accountable. So, why do we do this? Why are we doing this to ourselves? Before we get into the why, I want to give you all 3 common scenarios. See if you can relate to any of these situations. Okay. You have a lot going on your plate right now. You're overwhelmed, you've like reached capacity. And you think like the only way that you could get through your work is to just get through it. You know, you're going to work late nights. In your one-on-one with your manager, they say, hey, a new hire is joining next week, and I really need you to help to kind of onboard them to the team. You say, yeah, sure, I can help out. And then after the one-on-one, you have no idea how you're going to onboard this person and keep doing your work. So what do? You just keep working those late nights. Let's go to the next scenario. Okay, so you have finally found focus time. You're like deep in Figma, you got music going, you have like no meetings for like 2 hours. All of a sudden, you get a message from someone on Slack, from your team, and they're like, hey, are you free for 5 minutes just for a quick call? And you say, yeah, sure, I'm free. You stop your music, you get onto the call, and you realize they were just wanting some advice on something. It wasn't that urgent. But now you're distracted on your work, and you don't get to it until like tomorrow. Last scenario. You're in a team meeting now, and someone on your team is asking help for some presentation slides. No one in the meeting is putting their hand up to help, right? Like it's a bit of an awkward silence. You can't handle that awkward silence, so you said, yep, sure, I can help out. You didn't even ask how big the task was or how urgent it was. It was just far easier to kind of help out than to leave it with an awkward silence. Man, I've gone through all of those situations. I can feel the anxiety. I can relate to all of these. But why do we do it? Why did we say yes and jump to help out right away without really considering whether we should be doing this? So all of those were a sign of people pleasing. And there are many reasons why we people please, and all of us have our own unique reasons. For me, I think it comes from like cultural reasons. Also, I'm a woman in the workforce. Also, my personality of like, I'm naturally non-confrontational and I'm kind of a high achiever. So all of those things together creates a beautiful like mix of a people pleaser. But for others, it can be a little bit more serious. You know, you could be people pleasing because of learned childhood behaviors, low self-esteem, or dealing with trauma. So what I do say is if you do want to kind of get and understand why you people please, it's best to talk to like a therapist or a professional to kind of understand the root cause. A professional, Dr. Vanessa Bones, says that one of the most fundamental needs is for social connection and a feeling that we belong. Saying no feels threatening to our relationships and that feeling of connectiveness. And I really like what she says here. She says that people-pleasing comes from a need to belong. And another therapist, Sharon Martin, says that the need to belong, and we've been people-pleasing for the longest time. So Sharon Martin says that she goes way back to like prehistoric times. And she says even then we were doing some active people-pleasing. So she was saying that people formed groups in order to, find resources and food, in order to survive. If you didn't belong in those groups, well, yeah, you would be like eaten alive or starved to death. So you fit in order to survive. So this was really helpful when I was doing research because I was like, okay, great, like it's not my fault. We've been doing this for the longest time. I shouldn't beat myself up for it. It's biological in a way. But why then in a work sense do we do it? Okay, I understand where it comes from, but there's a lot of reasons why we do it in the workplace, and a lot of us as designers, why do we do it? Well, firstly, a lot of us at work, we have a fear of conflict. It is far easier and safer just to kind of go with the flow than really stand up and prove your worth. In fact, in a study in 2008, it did show that 2/3 of employees take extra measures to avoid conflict. Yeah, it's like a lot of pent-up frustration. You also just don't want to be seen difficult at work, right? Like, you don't want to be seen as the no person or the stick in the mud. You want to be seen as that yes person, that team player. Especially as women, I think that we fear if we say no, we are stereotyped as being mean or bossy. So it wasn't surprising in a study in 2022 that showed that women are more likely to people please than men. Now, you could also be new. You could be new to your career or new to a job. And I get it. This is probably the hardest times to push back on something because you're just trying to, make a good impression. So it wasn't surprising when I saw a study in 2022 that showed that in the first 90 days of a job, 21% of people failed to ask any questions or clarify expectations. You just kind of want to take it easy. And lastly, you could just want that promotion. I get it. That's what I was thinking I was doing. If I could do all of these things, this is evidence for my boss that I could get promoted. But I do ask you, are all of those things that you're doing, are they actually promotable tasks? Is it really going to get you promoted? Women are actually 50% more likely to spend time on non-promotable tasks than men. Non-promotable tasks are things like low visibility projects, taking meeting notes, planning social events. Really think the work that you're doing is at high visibility and connected to your career goals and also your business goals as well. Now, I also have another opinion. So I manage designers, I talk to a lot of designers in the community, and when I'm talking to us all, and I'm talking to our counterparts in engineering and product, I see that designers, we tend to people please more than our counterparts. I'm curious at lunch, we can ask them, but I think there are a few reasons why. Firstly, look, we are naturally empathetic people and people-focused, right? The core of what we do in our world is to make our customers happy, and essentially what we're doing is we are people-pleasing our users. So it is on the top of our minds, and it does kind of bring that personality into the job. Also, as designers, man, we deal with so much feedback, right? We are dealing with so much feedback from all different types of stakeholders, like sales, business, engineering, design, product. But then there's almost an expectation that we need to please all of our stakeholders by inputting their feedback. How many times have I designed a product that was purely based on all the stakeholders' input because I wanted to make them happy? And lastly, we rely a lot on team collaboration. If we have a healthy engineering team and a great relationship with your product manager, you're going to get things done and you're just going to be happier. So that may mean that we may say yes to things that we may not be wanting to do, but it's going to help improve our relationships, so we do it anyway. So now I want to talk about how this is impacting you as a leader. Now, when I say leader, you could be a designer leading a project or a manager leading a design team. Regardless of your role, there's always aspects of leadership. I've got this beautiful colored wheel here. How many of you know about the Enneagram? Some people know it, great. It's a personality test, and I've used it at every company and every team that I've worked in. And it's really helped me understand who I am. It's similar, it helps you when you know when you're stressed or what you are when you're at your best. But it also really helps me understand who my team is and how to best work with them. So basically, you have one main personality type, and then you have traits in the other types as well. So I'll just quickly go through them. Firstly, you could be a strict perfectionist, a considerate helper, a competitive achiever, an intense creative, a quiet specialist, a loyal skeptic, an enthusiastic visionary, an active controller, or an adaptive peacemaker. So, with all that I've said to you today, that I am a helper, that I'm considerate, take a wild guess what personality type I am. It shouldn't be a surprise. It wasn't a surprise when I did this test last year that I was given the considerate helper. And so this type is someone that is friendly, generous, we're self-sacrificing, we're good listeners, but that also means that we are people pleasers. Great. When I saw this, I was like, okay, they nailed it. So actually, like a few years ago, we brought an Enneagram specialist into my organization, and we made the whole of the product management and design team run the test, and then we talked about the results. It was really interesting when we saw that the majority of product managers and the majority of leaders in my organization were the active controller or the challenger. So this type is someone that is confident, they're strong, they're fearless, they're assertive, and they stand up for people that are weaker than themselves. And I was like, man, that is quite the opposite to what I am. So I was a little bit disheartened, because if I saw all the people above me were this type, how does that leave me? Can I be a great leader if I'm a considerate helper? So I asked the specialist that was in there, the facilitator. She said, because you're a people pleaser, you need to know how that's holding you back as being a great leader. Everyone, you can be a great leader in all of those types, but especially because you put other people's needs in front of your own, you like helping people, you need to know how that's holding you back, and also how you can learn from the other personality types. So that's what I did. I actually, in meetings, I almost became a chameleon and practiced these behaviors that didn't come naturally to me. I watched influential people in meetings, and I saw the language that we're using, and I saw how they dealt with challenging situations. A successful leader himself, Warren Buffett, says that the difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost anything. I mean, he's right? Like, the CEO of your company is not saying yes to every request that comes their way, or they are not responding to every Slack message right away. If they are, they probably shouldn't. But this always really stuck out for me, because when I think about it, and I always remind myself, like, a CEO of a company shouldn't be worrying. They probably are, but they've got other things to worry about, like the financial success of a business, or to report to the board of directors. They can't be worrying what people think if they speak their truth. So think about some leaders that you work with or that you're inspired by. Common leadership traits that you could see are, people are assertive, they're straightforward, they're direct, they're unapologetic, and they're business focused. They can see the bigger picture. Now reflect on your natural traits that come to you. When I reflect on my traits, quite naturally, I would say that, I'm kind, or people say I am. I'm bubbly, I'm playful, I'm caring, and I'm people-focused. I love, solving people problems and talking to people. So now I just need to know when I need to flex on traits that do not come as natural to me. So when someone's someone is asking for a request and I need to push back, I'm going to flex in these business leader traits. I'm going to be a little bit more straightforward and unapologetic. I need to remind myself that I can be that way. But that is not to say I can still be myself, my authentic self. It's just knowing when. When I'm trying to build rapport with someone, I'm having a one-on-one, building trust, I'll be a little bit more playful and caring. So this is really important to me because, those traits don't come as naturally. I have to keep that at the top of my mind. Okay, so what are we going to do about this? I maybe have just opened your eyes to some people-pleasing tendencies you probably didn't even know that you had, so I can't walk away without giving you some tips. People-pleasing can be a learned behavior, so it can be unlearned with practice. Firstly, this is what I always do. We need to get really, really, really good at prioritizing our work. This doesn't mean that the top 6 things that you're working on is high priority. Honestly, like only 1 or 2 things should be like number priority 1. I use something like the Eisenhower matrix to get really, really good at what should I be doing that's going to be urgent and important. And for the rest, I'm either going to schedule it, delegate it to someone else, or just not do it all. I do this weekly because priorities are constantly changing, and so you want to reset your expectations. This is actually really helpful when your manager asks you for a request, because I get it. Like when your manager asks you for something, it's even harder to push back on them, right? But say you've got a lot on your plate and your manager's like, hey, can you help out, leading this project? Say something like, I can start working on this right now, but what should we deprioritize to make space for this? Make it a conversation with your manager. Your manager's priority is just to make sure that you are, you've got a good bandwidth and they can help you work on your priorities. They'd be happy to do so. Also, I think as us people pleasers, we tend to want to give an answer straight away. We want to make that person happy right away. So we may respond really quickly. But really, there is no pressure. Like, we don't need to give a response right away. Sometimes it's harder when someone's face to face with you and they're like, hey, are you free for like 5 minutes just to chat really quick? You'll be like, yes, I'm free. You're not really considering whether this is actually something you have time for or you really should be doing. So this sentence that'll be on the screen, let me get back to you. This has helped me in so many situations where I've normally said yes to and then like regretted it afterwards. So let me get back to you. It is such a handy sentence. Also, I do want to make note that saying no, look, it is a complete sentence and you can use it when or however you want to, right? You could say no, very hard no. But look, we do work in a corporate environment where you want to be seen as a team player or helpful. So you want to learn the art of the soft no. So the soft no, you either provide a reason or you provide an alternative. And so you could say something like, I can't get to it this week, but here are some resources that can help. Make sure you're not spending too much time finding those resources or you're giving them a really long answer and you're spending too much time on it. It should be just really easy. So you're still being helpful. This is really good for the people pleasers that are just slowly trying to unlearn these behaviors. And what is easier than to actually say no is by not saying it all and putting time on your calendar to like create those boundaries of work. Focus time and putting it on your like scheduled calendar is so helpful. It makes sure people will not be disturbing you or they shouldn't be disturbing you when you finally have focus time. And we don't need to go off and like say no to like someone high up in your company right away. If things don't come as naturally to you, I always say start small and just like practice often. So start by saying no to, someone asking you for coffee during lunch or something, and then build your confidence up over time. And lastly, this is really important for us people pleasers. We think that saying no is mean, and we worry so much about what the other person thinks, right? Like we feel guilty when we say no. So what do? We say sorry. Like, I'm sorry I can't get to this. I'm sorry I'm busy right now. Instead of saying sorry, because this is not mean, we can at least acknowledge the request, but we don't need to apologize. So instead, you can say, I appreciate you thinking of me for this task, but I don't have bandwidth for this time. You're giving a reason, you're acknowledging the request, but you're not saying sorry. Okay, so if you do any of those tasks or one of them, you're going to start seeing some results pretty quickly. Firstly, you are finally going to get that focus time back. I think we struggle, right? Like I'm always in meetings, I'm always doing other people's work. You're going to actually get time to work on the things that matter to you and that matter to your career goals. I love this quote. This is by Steve Jobs. He says, "Focusing is about saying no." Yeah, so powerful. Also, another thing it's going to help is it's going to actually respect your time and earn you respect from others, because your time and your energy, they are finite resources, so you want to make sure that you work on the work that actually is important to you. If you start respecting yourself, trust me, other people will notice and they'll respect you as well. It's also going to forge deeper connections with people, because you're actually going to give people a more real and honest answer. And that's going to really help build trust. Rather than you saying yes, you're going to give a little bit more vulnerable into the response. And lastly, trust me when I say this will further your career. Saying no will help you get promoted, because really it's just an aspect of you showing that you can handle conflict and challenging situations, and also you can prioritize your work. These are great qualities of a great leader. So I'm going to leave you with these thoughts. Saying no is really about saying yes to the things that matter. It's not just about, setting those boundaries. It's about creating that space for the work that is important to you. Saying no is not a sign of weakness. In fact, it actually shows that you have great self-awareness and great communication and time management skills. My younger designer self would be proud of where I've come. I am no longer saying yes to every request that comes my way. Instead, I am pushing back, and I'm actually excited when someone asks me for a request, because that is just another opportunity for me to stand my ground and prove my worth and have more real and open, honest conversations with someone. I will say, look, I'm still recovering. There's always still times for me improvement. Even the other day, someone asked, "Hey, can you help look at this product brief for me?" I typed out the words, "Yes, I can help." And then I was like, "What?" So I deleted the response, and then I wrote again, "Let me get back to you." Right? So I'm constantly learning. It's always a behavior I need to practice. But I encourage you all today to kind of reflect on your people-pleasing tendencies and see how you can start introducing this little word, no, into your work life and in your personal life as well. So start small, practice often, and I'm really excited and curious to see what comes next. So happy to talk to you guys afterwards. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, but thank you so much for listening to my talk.
All right, we have some time for a few questions if you're up for it.
Yep, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. So the first question goes as this: what is your definition of conflict? Example, asking how urgent is that for you necessarily lead to conflict?
Yeah, that's a good one. How urgent is this for you? Is that a question I'm asking? Oh, yeah. I think when I manage some designers, and I will say it primarily does come from women designers, any situation that is pushing back, or even a question back to the person, how urgent is this for you? Do you need to get it done this week? I'm sorry, I'm too busy right now. All of those situations is challenging the other person. And I have seen younger designers uncomfortable with those situations. So though we think the definition of conflict is someone that's it's an argument back and forth, I actually see conflict as just anything that has a little bit of tension. It's not an easy, smooth, back and forth conversation.
Cool. The next question: can people pleasing have an effect on having a hard time accepting positive feedback? and focusing only on the negative?
Absolutely, I love this question. Totally. We worry so much of what the other person thinks. There's so much to people pleasing, there's so many layers. And so we're constantly wanting that validation from someone, we're constantly doubting ourselves. So yeah, like when we get feedback and we get good feedback and bad feedback, we will focus on the bad feedback, yeah. But that's the whole point of like, we need to acknowledge the good feedback as well.
Cool. The next question is about imposter syndrome. So do you think imposter, oh, it's a hard word, syndrome and people-pleasing behavior are connected to each other? Do you have any advice on this?
I have so much about imposter syndrome. I'm sure we're all even feeling it today. Like we're in a room with all designers, we should be feel connected, but I'm sure we feel it a lot. It is something that carries throughout your career as you even like get up the chain. When I thought I'd be a manager, I thought I'd be, yay, like I'd be around other leaders, but I just felt more of an imposter. Where's the question again?
Yeah, it's jumping around.
I'll just...
Yeah.
It is, I can't remember the question as much, but my advice on imposter syndrome is to just talk to other people, feel connected, build your community, talk to other designers. That's what I do. Like, I've moved cities constantly, and I'm always feeling like I'm the only designer. But then I reach out to other people, and I feel less alone.
Amazing. Some positive vibes about the deck and your talk, so thank you for this one. We have time for two more, let's say. How to manage if my manager people pleases their manager, with commitments of my time.
Yep.
So if my manager accepts responsibility from their manager and then delegate the task to me.
Yep.
Like what to do then?
Oh, that's tough, yeah, because your manager, well, that's a similar thing what I was saying. It's like your manager is asking you for something, you've got too much on your plate, you're already overcommitted. Put it back to your manager and say like, look, these are my number 5 priorities. I'm already at capacity this week. What should we deprioritize? Make it a conversation with your manager. But that's really tough when they're people pleasing their manager. Yeah.
Amazing, thanks. And let's do another one. Isn't chronic people pleasing, in fact, expert level procrastination?
Interesting, and that one got 6+ votes. Yeah. Expert level of procrastination. I don't know about that one because like procrastination is you're putting off your own work. People pleasing, in my sense, it means that like you actually think that someone else's work is more important than your work, so you're going to do it. It also is, yeah, you're putting off doing your work, but I think there's also an aspect of you just truly believe and think that like someone else's needs are important than your own.
Cool. Thank you for answering all of these questions. And last but not least, we have a small gift for you.
Yay.
So a bag of tea,
love that.
as well as an illustration of someone.
Beautiful.
So
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Round of applause.
Thank you.